Hello.
Hello.
We're
Welcome.
back. Welcome.
Yeah.
I'm Olivia,
And I'm Amy.
and
And
this
this
is
is
Girls
Girls
Gone
Gone Spooky.
Spooky. Woohoo!
Yeah.
If our outfits look familiar, no, they don't.
Yeah. You don't know. And if this
You don't know
setting looks
anything.
familiar,
Yeah.
no.
No, it doesn't.
This lighting is absolutely horrendous.
Honestly,
Just
you look beautiful. You always look
no.
beautiful. I feel like
Nobody look.
the blue light of my computer being the only thing lighting my face is not my favorite thing on the planet, but welcome to daylight standard time.
Oh God. Yeah. How depressing.
Yeah, I
Here
guess
we
it's
are.
not daylight, it's just standard time.
Savings
Yeah.
time.
Or is that,
Whatever.
wait. Is this daylight savings time or is summer daylight savings time? Because isn't it
I don't know.
EDT in the summer? Or is it EST? I
This is
don't
a
know.
really good question. I don't know either.
We're in our 30s and we don't know. So
I've never
email
thought
us
about
at
it.
girlsgonespooky@gmail.com or DM us the answer.
Wait,
Help.
I
Dad?
feel like we have to know
Dad, are you
this.
there? Help.
Just hold on, please. What should I
Yeah.
even search for? Are we in
Are we in
daylight
DT or
savings?
ST?
Let's see.
Also, what's a hollow?
Oh, a hollow, let me go back, is an elongated depression between uplands, hills, or mountains, often following the course of a stream. So it's a valley.
So it's a valley.
Yeah.
I could have just said a valley, but okay.
Yeah. Yep.
For anyone who did not listen to last week or just forgets, I was pontificating about what a hollow is, and Amy had a really great guess. I was like, oh, it's probably a valley, because that's what hollow
But you were
sounds like.
right.
She's like, or a break in the forest. And I was like, that's so much better. So much more like poetic sounding. But no, it's just a valley. Boring.
Yeah. I prefer that. We can just imagine.
Yeah.
Okay, daylight savings time was from March to November. So we are not in that
standard time.
Yeah.
Okay. I feel like all the memes are very misleading people, because people are like, we did it. We saved the daylight. And I'm like, no, wrong months. Wrong one. Wrong one, guys.
Yeah.
Well.
Oh, here we go.
We don't care. We don't care, you guys, because paranormality is timeless. All right.
And it happens whether it's light or dark. It doesn't care.
It does. It does, especially when it's dark, though. So honestly, I feel like we're just supercharging the spook with dark recording sessions.
Yes.
Okay, two really quick things before we get into our theme. One, the new Alien show on Netflix.
Yeah.
The Manhattan Alien Abduction. I just finished it. It's 3 episodes. It's like a little mini series, and the episodes are not that long. Have you watched it yet? Or just in the background?
Just in the background, because Dave finished the whole thing, but I was like
Dave.
bouncing around behind. So I saw most of the first episode.
Okay.
Where like the lady, I guess I shouldn't give spoilers.
Where she's levitating?
Yes.
I mean, that's a spoiler, but not like totally, because it's like they say it in the promo.
Right. Okay. So it doesn't count.
Yeah, it's fine. It's fine.
That is very so
compelling. Weird. Yeah.
Yeah.
Highly recommend you watch. I feel like we shouldn't. Okay. I'm going to wait till you watch the whole thing, because it's a roller coaster. And then in like maybe next week we can talk about it, because then it'll have been out long enough where if we spoil it for people, that's on them.
Yeah, that's your fault. Yeah. Okay. I like that idea.
That's a plan.
Let's do it. Okay.
And then the other thing, I am reading this book called Episode 13, and actually I need to pull it up so I can see who the author is. It is by Craig.
Craig.
Like Craig.
She's Midwestern all of a sudden.
Seriously, Craig DeLuey. D-I Louis, spelled with an E at the end. I just explained, like, why not just spell the whole thing? You know what I mean? Dilouie.
Yeah.
I'm like, it's
got it.
Okay, I'm done. It is so good. It is, I would describe it as the Blair Witch of books.
Oh God.
So it follows, it's very spooky, and it's like, you get into it quick. Like, it's one of those books where you're like, oh, is this gonna like be a slow burn? No. It heats up real fast.
Wow.
It's about very high level. It's about like a ghost hunting show, like a TV show. And it's a husband and wife. The wife is a scientist, like a real scientist. And so they have this unique approach where she is like the debunker. So it's like anything that they get, like EVPs or EMF readings or bumps in the night, whatever. She's like, that's the house settling. Like, that's this, that's that. That's a cable behind this wall. Like, she's like analyzing everything. And there are ones that are like, she can't fully explain, which like adds some like, ooh, to the show. But so they're investigating this house that's called Foundation House. That's like basically was headquarters a long time ago for this group of like researchers. They were all like scientists and doctors and stuff, but researchers and like believers of essentially like unlocking your mind. And it was in the 70s, 60s, 70s. So a lot of it was like drug induced like experiments and like how to open your mind and use more than 10% of your brain and whatever. But they were like a paranormal research foundation essentially. And that shit is crazy. But it's all done in like excerpts of the show script, because there's no script, but it's like the recording, like the notes of the show, as well as their own personal diaries of the ghost hunters. So it's like the husband and wife, and then there are 3 other people. It is so good. I'm like 3/4 of the way through, and I highly recommend. So episode 13, Craig DeLuey.
Okay. I'm writing it down.
It's very good.
That's cool. Very good. What a unique idea.
Yes. I was like, this is very clever.
Yes.
And you get a little like more out of it because you can't miss a detail because you're reading it. Whereas like Blair Witch, I feel like I've seen it like 6 times, and I feel like every time I notice something I didn't notice before. Yeah. Which is part of the beauty of it. But this is like one pass and you're getting it like to the face.
Yeah.
To the eyeballs. Yeah. Very spooky.
Okay, good recommendation.
Oh, yeah, I try. Yeah. Okay, shall we let them know? Shall we let them know? All right, my babies. Haunted hospitals. Very creepy. Spooky. Hospitals are scary to begin with. But guess what? It could be worse. It could also be haunted. So we're going to jump right in. So I will give a plug. Amy is going to tell the story that inspired this episode. I think we've done haunted hospitals or like something adjacent to that in the past, like psychiatric wards and asylums and stuff like that. But this maybe rerun episode of hospitals is definitely inspired by a podcast that Amy's going to talk about. So I will zip my lips about that. Now I'm going to talk about Taunton State Hospital. Okay. So Taunton State Hospital is a psychiatric hospital that dates back to 1854, originally known as, I hate this name, the State Lunatic Hospital of Taunton. Like, really? You got to call them lunatics? That's not very nice.
Yeah, come on.
So we're going to start with the history of the hospital and some associated persons, which you may be surprised by.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yes. So obviously all hospitals are really, I liked the way that this article talks about it. And this is from US Ghost Adventures. But hospitals are, how they describe it, society's most sensitive structures. And I was like, what? But then they go on to say hospitals see birth, death, illness, healing, which is so true. Like they see humanity at its like basest, essentially. Yes. So they see a lot of positive energy. They see a lot of dark energy as well. So it makes sense that hospitals in general tend to be haunted. Yes. So, okay. Taunton State Hospital, like I said, psychiatric hospital located in Taunton, Massachusetts. It's now just a shell of one of Massachusetts' haunted hospitals. The building opened its doors in 1854. And Taunton State bore witness to hundreds of psychiatric patients, and more notably, a couple of notorious serial killers. It was the second of its kind in the state of Massachusetts. The hospital and surrounding facilities are located on a rolling 154-acre farm along the Mill River. The complex itself was expanded several times to make room for more and more patients. At its largest, it was comprised of over 40 structures. So this was like a very
huge.
big place housing a lot of energy and like not great energy.
Yeah.
The main building, called Kirkbride, closed in 1975, and after its demise, the rest of the buildings fell into a state of disrepair. Taunton State, like most psychiatric hospitals at the time, followed the Kirkbride design, which allowed the hospital and campus to act as a self-sufficient town, and structures were built to maximize exposure to natural light as well as air circulation. So there were actually like some sort of progressive things about this. The building form itself was meant to have a curative effect. Sadly, innocent people like veterans who had sustained brain injuries and also those with Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, and Tourette's were admitted to the hospital. Women who experienced anxiety and panic attacks, postpartum depression, and even fatigue were also high on the list of those brought to the hospital. Yeah. Like I wonder why women are tired.
Yeah.
Why has nothing changed?
Right. Oh, God.
It's fine. I probably should be in a mental institution.
No.
We're all a little loony, if you will.
That's for sure. Did you know, I shouldn't say this because I don't actually know, but I think that the origin of the word lunatic has to do with like how they said hysteria. That's what they prescribed or said that women were suffering from. And then Luna means moon, and lunatic, it's like women when they're on their periods.
Really?
Are crazy, I think. I think that's what Dave told me. Maybe
so really only women can be lunatics? Oh my God, that's so rude.
If Dave was just trying to make a joke, I would.
I'll end him.
Okay, it means moonstruck.
Oh, okay, so maybe.
Kind of. But anyway.
I mean, that makes it sound so like delightful and like,
I know.
I don't know, like
witchy.
Fairy tale-esque. Yeah, a little witchy for sure. Well, we're all witches, so it's fine.
Yeah. Okay. Well, so hopefully lots of people didn't just out my boyfriend as
no. Oh my God, no. No, we love like Dave loves women, everyone. Dave loves women.
Yes.
So lots of people are in this hospital who like should not be in this hospital. And some of the quote unquote science used to quote unquote cure patients included mostly pseudosciences like phrenology, which measured a person's skull, dead or alive, to find patterns that the mentally ill shared. These sciences continued at Taunton State Hospital well into the late 1940s, and the abuse carried on just as long. This included solitary confinement, electroshock, and lobotomies, which were all commonplace in hospitals of Taunton's kind at the time. These days, Taunton State Hospital and its surrounding grounds sit on the Registry of Historic Places, even though most of the original buildings were demolished or destroyed by fire. So, here are some famous people who were in Taunton State Hospital. The first is Anthony Santo, who was a serial killer born in 1894 in Italia. He confessed to the murders of his 2 cousins and another girl in the span of 3 months. He stated that he went into mad spells where he couldn't control his actions or anger. He was diagnosed with hallucinations and was eventually sent to Taunton, where he supposedly spent the rest of his life. His childhood is largely unknown as he immigrated to America later in life. His parents did recall a lousy bout of scarlet fever that Anthony had suffered in childhood, which had left his mind, quote unquote, afflicted since then. And on June 6th, 1908, a 14-year-old Santo was questioned by police regarding the theft of a bicycle. Unprompted, he confessed to murdering 2 cousins and a 6-year-old girl. She was 6. Yeah. He said that he lured. So at first I was reading this, I was like, a serial killer? Really? Like, I know they're like there's like a framework for like what exactly, like span of time, number of people, whatever. But then I read this and I was like, yeah, okay. He said that he lured his cousins into the woods and killed them both with large rocks and a knife, and then stoned the 6-year-old girl, Louise Stowla, to death. Yeah.
No.
So definitely a serial killer.
Yeah.
Yeah. Next up on the list of famous serial killers, Jane Toppin, born as Honora or Honora, Honora. I hadn't heard that name before. It's very pretty.
Yeah,
Honora
I actually know
Kelly.
somebody named Honora.
That's really pretty. I like that a lot.
It is pretty.
Honora Kelly in 1854. She was nicknamed Jolly Jane after her arrest in 1901, and her confession to 31 murders.
Whoa.
Yeah.
How?
Honestly, I kind of love to see a female serial killer, but that is like really excessive.
Yeah, that's too much.
Yeah. She was quoted saying her ambitions were to have killed more people, helpless people, than any other man or woman who has ever lived.
Ew.
Like, girl, what? What?
Set goals for yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah. No.
She's driven.
Yeah, she sure is.
She was born to Irish immigrant parents, and her mother passed away when Jane was very young, leaving her with her, of course, alcoholic and abusive father. He was rumored, get ready for this, to have sewn his own eyelids shut in a bout of insanity. So not that shocking that she ended up kind of crazy. Between the cycle of abuse and probably history of mental illness, like not a great cocktail.
Yeah.
No pun intended.
Yeah. No.
So a few years after her mother's death, her father took her and her sister Delia to the Boston Female Asylum, never to see them again. So I guess like no questions asked, which I don't fully understand, but whatever. Honora was eventually placed as an indentured servant in the home of Mrs. Anne C. Toppin, and Honora later took her last name. In 1885, she began to train as a nurse at Cambridge, where she truly started to show psychopathic tendencies. She took a liking to very elderly and frail patients, using them as guinea pigs in sick experiments with morphine and atropine, altering their prescriptions to see what it would do to their nervous systems. It's like a very messed up person. So she had, of course, as a nurse, a lot of access to these patients alone, completely by herself, making fake charts, medicating them to drift in and out of consciousness, and even getting into bed with them.
Ew.
Yeah.
No.
She stated that she liked to see the inner workings of their souls and derived sexual thrill from her patients being so close to death. Which is like so twisted.
Yeah, she's got some stuff going on.
Yeah. It's giving Nurse Ratched. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
True.
After Toppin began her career as a private nurse, her poisoning spree began. She killed her landlord, her foster sister, 4 elderly family members of the Davis family who she nursed for. And when Minnie Davis was found dead, a toxicology report was ordered, and Toppin was eventually arrested for murder. After her trial, she confessed to her lawyer that she had killed about 31 people and wanted the jury to find her sane so she could have a chance at being released. Eventually, she was found not guilty by reason of insanity and was committed for life in one of Massachusetts' haunted hospitals, Taunton State.
Wow.
So
that's crazy. I did not know her story.
Yeah, no, I know. It sounds familiar to me, but it's like just like right there. Like the Jolly Jane thing I remember coming across at some point, but never in that much detail. Holy shit.
Yeah, no.
One more weird honorable mention for famous people. Lizzie Borden may have had a connection to Taunton. So obviously another very infamous name. She was a Fall River native, and she actually stayed at a jail that was right next door to the hospital, or so the story goes. And that whole complex is said to be haunted. So it's not just Kirkbride, the center hospital building, but it's like basically all of the buildings on that campus, I guess you could call it.
Right.
So to cover off on the hauntings, here's some things included. And this started while the hospital was actually still open, which makes sense. A lot of people died there. And also were just basically tortured there, which is so horrible. So when the hospital was still open, staff would attempt to go into the basement for some mundane reason and claimed that they would feel something physically stopping them from going down there, like hands on their shoulders, pushing them, an invisible force, essentially. There are strange markings all over the walls of the basement. So if you are able to go down there, you will find weird kind of culty things on the walls. Disembodied screams. Even people who break in there at night now hear screaming from different rooms. A shadow man, of course, but not just any shadow man. People who've reported seeing him say he's seen crawling along the walls, and while the hospital was still open, watching patients.
No.
Yeah.
Ew. Ooh,
That is something straight out of American Horror Story for me.
I can
so
picture
scary.
that.
So scary.
No.
Banging, screaming, moaning from behind the woods behind the hospital at night.
There's always woods.
It's always
gotta
woods.
be woods.
So it's scary inside, scary outside, no matter where you go. It's fucking scary. There's one resident ghost of one of the buildings called the Goss building. And he is called the Man in White, which I feel like is unusual. It's usually a woman in white. He typically appears on the 3rd floor of the Goss building. Doesn't seem to be, malignant or whatever kind of spirit or ghost. But he just appears and then walks off. And then the last one, which is maybe a bit of a stretch, but also connected to some of the strange markings that are on the walls of the basement. It said that at a certain point in time, there was a satanic cult that was either operating out of the basement or running the hospital, and that they performed rituals and human sacrifices using the patients of the hospital.
Oof,
so
that's a scary thought.
It's one of those things, though, where these asylums were completely unregulated. So who's to know? I mean, that also makes it easy to make things up about them and to, catastrophize the whole thing. But really dark stuff was happening there. So who's to say that there also wasn't some occult satanic component? Because Jolly Jane, people think, oh, well, they're, at death's doorstep or whatever, or they're crazy, so nobody cares. It's really upsetting.
That's
that
very
is
scary.
Taunton State Hospital. So do not recommend.
No.
0 out of 10.
Very creepy.
Yes.
And I don't know why exactly this is making me think, but did you ever see the new Joker movie?
I did. I never saw the first one.
Oh, you should.
Yeah.
I mean,
I know. I've heard such good things about it, and I don't know, it never, I sit down to I'm like, oh, let's watch a movie, and then I'm like, it's Joker, and I'm like, I'm thinking Made in Manhattan,
like a rom-com. I know.
Or we watch The Office, so I don't know. I should watch it though, because I know it's the first one at least. Did you see the second one?
Yes, and I actually really liked it. It was
really,
it's a dark movie, obviously. Reviews. But Dave and I were both talking about that. People didn't like the musical component of it.
Fair enough.
I don't like musicals in general, but I like the musicals where it's not Broadway sounding. So this one, I thought you liked Hamilton,
right?
I've never seen it.
Goodbye. Canceled. I was asking that, and as I was asking that, I was like, there's a chance she's gonna say she's never seen it. Okay, when I come visit, we're gonna watch it.
Okay.
Because it's on Disney Plus. It's very accessible, and it's fabulous. I actually think you would love it because it's not Broadway-y. It's not the standard format.
Okay.
Anyway, back to this.
I check it out. But in the second movie, they're in some sort of asylum, some institution, And yeah, I guess that's what made me think of it. But I was just curious if you had seen it, because it was
not yet.
So people hated it, but I was like, wow, this is great.
That's so interesting. Yeah, I mean, I feel like
check
that
it
way
out.
about a lot of movies. It's also like a lot of the movies that get incredible reviews that are like clearly Oscar bait, and I'm like,
Yeah,
this
it's
is not
fine.
like fun. Like,
Yeah.
what was the one? Bradley Cooper was in that one about that famous composer,
Oh,
the
yeah.
prosthetic nose.
Yeah, I never saw it. Or the famous conductor. Was
Yeah.
it called like Maestro or something?
Yes, it was Maestro.
Yeah.
I turned it off.
Really?
I got
It's enough.
70% through, 60% through, and I was like, no, this is not good.
good.
Like, it's not compelling. It's beautifully done, but that's not enough. Like, I'm not going to sit through this for 2 hours. Anyway, I'll get off my soapbox, but I hear you with that. I will watch Joker.
Okay.
And that fits nicely with our theme. Everyone watch Joker too. And like it, God damn it.
And the first one too. But be in the right headspace, because they are those movies that are like, oh my God, I can't get out of this after you watch it.
Okay.
You know?
Yes.
So,
or have Made in Manhattan teed up for right after.
Exactly. Yes.
I don't know why that's the rom-com that came to mind.
I
but
love that movie.
It works. It's cute.
A cute movie.
It's very cute. Okay, to finish off my segment, I was just curious, like, what I could find on Reddit to see if we have something a little more modern to share. And holy shit. Like,
we sure did.
There were like 10 threads. I culled as much as humanly possible and just included the ones that had a little more substance. So I decided to include 3, but holy crap, we could do 10 episodes on this with all the scary shit people have seen. So this first one is from Arium 23. And the prompt was something like, if you work in a hospital, what's the like freakiest thing you've seen, like paranormal wise?
Yeah.
So Arium says, okay, I'll bite. I was on call one evening in the winter, and since I used to live 45 minutes away, I decided to sleep in the hospital due to the distance. I usually slept in one of the unused exam rooms near the cath lab and cardiac recovery unit, and aside from the occasional janitor, nobody bothered me. I liked exam room 3 the best since it had a marginally more comfortable bed. One night, I wake up at 11:36 and just have a weird feeling. I don't usually sleep well on call anyway, so this wasn't out of the norm. In the darkness and all in quick succession, I hear in the ceiling a metallic thud, something plastic on the counter move, and a paper towel from the dispenser wave in the breeze. I was too scared to look over into the corner, and I just felt like a little kid while I pulled the covers tighter and tighter, trying to go back to sleep. I found out the next morning that exam room 3 is where cath lab will occasionally store the bodies of the deceased if the family would like to have some private moments before being taken to the morgue. So yeah, I never slept in that room again.
No.
Yeah.
Ooh, been sleeping in the deathbed.
Yes.
Ooh.
Like, oh. And like, of course, none of this seems, again, like malicious or anything, but like, ooh, to just be like, oh, I don't have a good feeling. Like to wake up out of nowhere and be like, and that corner is scary to me right now. I do not want to be looking into that corner.
No. Yikes. That instinct.
This one is crazy. Like actually so wild. This is from Frady Dog. They say, this was told to me by a veteran of psych security. He was working in the psych department that night, and apparently a very combative, hyper-religious patient was restrained in a 4-point to a bed, a big, heavy, regular hospital bed. Security and his buddy were called to the scene because the staff was trying to do something with the patient. I don't remember exactly what, but the patient becomes agitated and starts screaming. Apparently then starts speaking in tongues. And as the patient is freaking out, my buddy sees the bed begin to lift off of the floor, first from one side, then from the other. He was frozen for a moment watching this happen, unable to believe it. And I assume the other staff was too. Eventually, he snaps out of it and helps the staff calm the patient down. Once things were settled, he stepped out of the room, and the security coworker goes, "Holy shit, did you see the bed? Did you see that?" And he was like, "Yep." So it wasn't just him who had seen.
No. Oh my God.
Ugh. And the
That's
fact
so
that they're
scary.
like uber religious just adds such like a demonic
Yes.
tinge. I hate it.
Yikes.
Okay, so this one is like spooky, but also kind of nice. And I thought it would be a nice one to end on. This is from Dancing Wild Salmon. They say, "We have a room on our unit we are convinced is haunted. It's that room that seems to have more patients die in it than any other room on the floor. Way before I started working there, one of our doctors got so frustrated with the amount of deaths in the room that he nailed an angel holding a rosary outside the door. This doctor actually passed away a few years ago due to cancer." So here's the story. "I've taken care of patients in this room and have had some spooky experiences. There's a huge bathroom attached to this room that is a bathtub, and this is an ICU room, so we obviously never use the bathtub, and it acts as a storage closet more than anything else. I've had multiple instances where I've closed the door to the bathroom and left patients only to discover the door open the next time I enter the room. And I'll remind you, this is the ICU, so the patients are not up and walking around. I sit right outside the patient's room on my sub break, I guess, charting, so I know for a fact no one else has gone into the room. I've been in the middle of patient care before and have heard loud thuds or bangs coming from inside the bathroom, only to open the door and see nothing inside has fallen and there is nobody in there. Apparently, there was a young pediatric patient in that room who kept talking about a doctor coming in her room at night to tell her she was going to be all right. No one knew who she was talking about, but eventually, when she got well enough to walk around the unit, she pointed to the picture of the doctor who had passed away and said, 'That was the doctor. That's the guy who was telling me I was going to be okay.'"
That's
He was
nice.
protecting her. And I feel like he was protecting her from something maybe not so nice in the bathroom.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't love that.
It sounds like it. No.
Because it's like a scene out of a movie where like the patient is there like hooked up, like eyes closed, sleeping or comatose, I guess. And then the bathroom door creaks open in an otherwise empty room. Like I hate that. I hate that.
Yeah. Yep.
So those are my haunted hospital stories. Your turn.
Good ones. Hospitals are like simultaneously where you feel most safe. Yeah. And also just the least not safe from these stories. So anyway, good ones.
Good one.
Okay, so I picked out one hospital just to stay on the theme. I was telling you this before we started recording, that all of these stories kind of center around nurses. But I have one hospital. And it's the old Tuli Hospital. At least I assume that that's how you pronounce it. It's Tooele. And it's in Utah. So I'm just going to keep it really brief. Like, this hospital changed hands a whole lot. It's old. They, at one point in its history, didn't have a morgue for the dead people. So they would just stack bodies in a corner. So it was not the best of places. And now it is like a haunted attraction. Like, a lot of ghost hunters go there. There's a lot of activity. And they have some ghosts that they can name and just kind of typical hauntings. But the one thing that stood out to me about this one is this ghost named Maria. And she is believed to guard a portal that has been seen at the facility.
What?
So the portal...
Oh my God, that took such a turn that I was not expecting.
I know, and that's why I picked this out. I was like, okay, we have a ghost banging around, a ghost opening doors, whatever. There's a portal.
Holy
so I have to tell it. But okay, so the portal looks like an extremely bright, like, circle, and it seems to form as a way to direct the deceased out of the building into the afterlife.
Whoa.
because nowadays it was a complex, kind of like the Taunton Hospital.
Mm-hmm.
So there is still an elderly care facility on the same lot.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why people have reported seeing the portal, is that there are still people getting their care there and passing away. And yeah, Maria seems to be the guardian of that portal. And sometimes people, I don't know if this is just like for scariness, but they say that it seems like the Maria wants people to really avoid the portal because whatever's on the other side is dangerous.
Ooh.
But that's all they say about it. So
I mean, maybe it's like the living. Like she doesn't want the living to go through. Right. That makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah, it does. Like if it's not your time to go yet, don't go in there. Yeah.
Yeah,
makes sense. Right. But that's Maria at the old Tuli Hospital.
Oh, I love that. Then, that's a good one.
Yeah. I have notes about the inspiration for this whole episode.
Oh, I'm like, my hands are sweaty just thinking about it.
It's so scary.
It's really scary.
And I would recommend everybody listen to this actual episode. This is from Spooked. It's called The Tall Man in the Hat. And we've talked about Spooked before, but for anybody who doesn't know, it's a scary stories podcast. And it's real people who are writing in their personal stories. So very scary.
Oh my gosh. So excited.
And in this particular one, I think the reason that people should listen to it is the way that they do the voices and stuff is so scary. I feel like I'm like gonna black out listening to it. But anyway.
Okay. She actually, I can confirm, she texted me, have you listened to Spooked this week? And I was like, no, why? And she's like, I just listened to one that's so scary, I think I'm gonna black out. That's like the most Amy reaction to something scary for some reason.
Because I have
just like,
no, I don't have fight, I don't have flight, I have freeze. So
yeah, it makes sense. I do too, which is alarming to me.
Yeah. Hopefully we don't ever get in a situation where it's really needed. But
I hope not.
Yeah. Okay. So Tall Man in the Hat. This is a story from somebody named Amy. So this is also suitable. She is a nurse technician. She works in a progressive care and cardiology unit in a hospital. And she usually works the day shift. So the first thing she does is go into her patient's room to take vitals and to like clean them up, get them ready for the day. And so the story starts with her going in to check on this one patient, and this lady is just yelling and screaming obscenities, not in a good mood. But finally, she agrees to get washed up. So Amy washes her hair and like her face, and then she gets down to rubbing her arms, and the patient has this very sudden change of heart. So she pushes Amy off of her, and before she starts yelling again, she goes really quiet for just a moment, and then she starts repeating, "The tall man in the hat doesn't like you." Ew. And she describes it as like hissing and just progressively getting louder and scratchier, and I hate it.
I have chills. I
know. It's so scary. And so Amy somehow goes about her business, and she comes back the next day, gets the report from the night nurse, and she lets her know that that patient passed away overnight. And she's like, oh, that's kind of surprising because she didn't seem to be like close to death, but she doesn't really think anything of it. So a few months later, it's all normal until this happens, that Amy goes into the same room that this previous patient had been assigned to. And this time there's a sweet older man who's in there just for observation after a fall. So he's like otherwise perfectly healthy. And they're having a normal conversation when Amy gets a phone call, so she's like, okay, I have to go, I'll be back later. And she notices that the patient looks like he's hesitating to say something to her, but that he's like needing to say it. And so she prompts him and he says, honey, I don't know what you did, but that tall man in the hat does not like you. And
I hate it.
I know. Somehow she says, I don't know what to do about this, or like with this information. She says, tell him I'm sorry for whatever I did. Gotta go. So she
Got a jet.
comes. Yeah. What else can you do? She comes back the next day, gets the report from the night nurse, who tells her that that man passed away around 3:30 in the morning the night before. So now she's putting together this pattern of just these two patients having said the same thing to her, but she's like, what can I even do with this information? Like, do I tell someone?
Yeah.
People are going to think I'm
no
crazy.
One's going to believe you.
Yeah. So time passes, another month, or a few more months go by, and Amy is attending to another patient. And this time the man was a dementia patient, and he'd been there for a few days and hadn't said anything coherent that whole time. But suddenly he grabs her arm and says over and over, the tall man in the hat doesn't like you. And he's screaming. And he's screaming so loud and often that the other nurses come in and they hear it. And they're like, why is he saying this? And Amy's like, I don't know.
Don't know.
Still, again, what do you do?
Don't know.
So, yeah, she gets really freaked out this time because this happened in a different room. So she was thinking, oh, maybe this specific room is haunted. That's really scary. But now it's as if this thing or whatever is moving around the unit. So she comes back the next day, and again, that patient died overnight. So that's kind of the end of the story, other than that Amy describes that working where she does, it's not uncommon for her patients to like see family members or friends that have passed. And usually that's a sign that they're going to die soon. And often those will be the people that seem more ready to go. And the ones who passed after talking about the man in the hat seem to be more like unexpected deaths. So she's wondering if this man in the hat is there like coaxing people along into death, even if they're not quite ready to die. And she closes the episode by wondering if this man in the hat doesn't like her because she's often the one who does post-mortem care for patients. So it's like he's urgently wanting to take these people with him or whatever, and that's why he doesn't like her. And then she gives this wonderful visual of him standing right behind her while she works on her patients who have just passed away. And it's chilling.
So scary.
That is her story. And it is so scary.
God. Ugh. Amy. Yeah. Amy and other Amy.
I know.
The Amy's creeping me out tonight.
Yeah. Yikes. But
so scary.
Man in the
Seriously,
doesn't.
You did a really good job of like taking notes in a way that felt like not just regurgitating the whole thing, but like you did it very well. So
thank you.
Snaps.
Thank you so much.
Snaps for my Amy. And also snaps for the other Amy for like keeping calm. Like I know. Goodbye. Quit.
Yeah.
I quit.
Yeah.
Changing careers. Goodbye forever.
I know. And some people, I was looking at Reddit to see if they had a summary on there, and there's a whole spooked subreddit.
Yeah.
And the comments on that episode were like very negative. People were saying like, oh, come on, it ends with him being like a shepherd to the other side. That's so lame. And
I don't think that's lame. That he doesn't
like
her.
Not at all.
Why doesn't he like her, though? I feel like they missed the main motif.
Point. Yes, agreed. Yeah. And people criticizing like her professional ability.
Oh my God.
They were saying, this happened 3 times. She better have told somebody.
Oh my God.
It's like, okay, what are they going to do?
Shut up, people.
Yeah.
Do you have your nursing license?
Right. Yeah. Just because you couldn't do anything about it, even if people
and no
knew.
one would believe you. Like,
yeah.
Okay, you tell whatever your supervisor, like, yeah, a bunch of people are saying this weird thing to me. They'd be like, okay.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, I agree.
Get fired.
You did nothing wrong, Amy.
No,
you handled it well.
All. Yes, and thank you for your story.
Yeah, thanks.
So, that's that one. And then I have a couple short ones that came from BuzzFeed. These are also stories from nurses. And this one isn't like super impactful, but I included it because of the first part. This is from Sky Y, and they write, if you are skeptical about ghosts, I urge you to work in a hospital. I used to think ghosts were nonsense, but no, they are 110% real. I learned that early on when I started working in hospitals, and over the years, I've seen hundreds of ghosts.
Oh my God.
It's an incredible thing to witness. There was a woman who used to walk up and down one of the wards. She was elderly and wearing an old hospital gown. I would follow her sometimes, and she would eventually walk through a wall and vanish until the next day. Yeah. Working in the morgue, I saw a beautiful woman who apparently was a mortician years ago. She would suddenly appear, smile, and then walk through the morgue. I saw her during an actual autopsy once, which scared the life out of me.
Oh my God, yeah.
I heard her chuckle after I shrieked.
She's got a sense of humor. I love it.
Yeah. She's just hanging out.
Morbid humor, if you will.
Nice.
Thank you.
Good one. They say, I also often saw a man walking hand in hand with what people believed to be his wife. They would walk by, nod, and then vanish. And lastly, an encounter I remember best was when 2 girls were giggling in a corridor. I never saw them, but they could be heard giggling nearly every night. And then, as you got closer, you would hear their feet as they ran away, still giggling.
Oh my God.
So, I don't know what hospital that is, but it sounds
haunted
like
as shit one.
Yes. Sounds like some nice-ish ghosts.
Yeah. I'll take it.
Yeah. Okay, 2 more. This one is less haunting, more just interesting death-based. So, this is from Mina M. And she says, my fellow nurses and I have seen a spirit-like mist rise from the body as a patient died.
Whoa. What?
Yeah. And it's happened multiple times because she writes, it scared the hell out of me the first time. After that, I just accepted that the patient had been released from their suffering.
Oh, that gives me goosebumps.
It's their spirit leaving, I guess.
My God.
That's why you open a window.
Yeah, exactly.
I feel like that's
cover
so
the
important.
mirrors, open a window.
Yeah. Yes. She says, I've also had a patient suddenly tell me his friend was there and wanted him to come with him. I saw a mist-like blob at the foot of his bed. He didn't know his friend, who was horribly burned in the same accident that landed him in the hospital, had died a few minutes before.
Oh my God, I am covered in goosebumps. I'm sorry to interrupt. Holy crap.
No, that's okay. It's amazing because, they say we didn't tell him about his friend because we didn't want to make his last hours grief-stricken.
Oh my God.
So I told him if he wanted to go with his friend, it was okay. And minutes later, he did. 2 other nurses besides me. I know. 2 other nurses besides me saw the mists rise and seemed to pass through the window together.
Oh My heart.
I know.
Oh
They're
God.
friends for life and in the afterlife too.
And in death. Oh,
it's nice. Yeah.
That's so nice.
Yeah. I like that one.
That's so good.
Really like the imagery actually of somebody's spirit being able to leave their body after they die.
And like a mist
soothing
too.
Somehow.
Yeah. Because that feels like energetic, you know?
Yes. Yeah. And it feels good somehow. Like I feel like heavy energy wouldn't float away like mist.
No. Yeah, I agree. And I'm thinking of like light refracting through mist too. You know?
Yeah. Pretty.
Oh, that's a nice thought.
Yeah. I like that. Okay, last one is a little bit kind of silly. So this is from Brenda R. And she writes, I am not a mystical person, but some things I just cannot explain. I worked with a nurse who we will call Mary. One of her patients, whom we will call Susie, died, and Mary helped her CNA do the death care. As they rolled the large lady over, Mary sighed and said, Oh, Susie, you are dead weight. Oh. So just like a funny joke.
Yes.
A couple days later, Mary tells me, I think Susie heard me. I'm having problems every time I enter that room. I sort of laughed it off. After all, Susie was dead. How could she have heard? But Mary made me go into the room with her. She told me to go into the bathroom and wash my hands. I did, looking at Mary through the open door like she was ridiculous. Now, she said, I will come wash my hands. She entered the bathroom and barely cleared the doorway before the door slammed shut. She turned the faucet on and water sprayed everywhere. Oh! We did this on and off for days and it never failed. I could go in and wash my hands, no problem, but not Mary. Each day, Mary would stand in the room and say, Susie, I didn't mean it in a bad way. After a good week of apologies, Mary was forgiven and it stopped.
I love that.
Yeah. She's just
I want to have a sense of humor in the afterlife.
I know. Yeah, it's harmless, like just spraying water on somebody who made a fat joke.
A fat joke, literally a fat joke. Like,
yeah.
Rude. You
Yeah,
can't wash your hands, rude.
Right. Yeah, I like that.
I love that.
Susie.
That was a perfect ender.
Yes, agreed.
Oh my
Susie
God.
with the levity.
Susie with the levity. Okay, you guys, thank you so much for listening. I'm just looking at our calendar and we have one more episode and then we're going to have a brief Thanksgiving hiatus. We'll have a couple more. We'll have a little Christmas hiatus. So we'll announce dates for those at the beginning of next episode. But we'll have a little week off and then we will be back for you. So please rate and review the pod. We hope you liked haunted hospitals. We'll have another spooky ass topic for you next week. Like I said at the beginning, you can DM us, email us at girlsgonespooky@gmail.com. Follow us on social at girlsgonespooky. And until next week, stay spooky.
Bye.
Bye.